A man raised his gun and dropped dead 4 seconds later. No one saw the quiet nurse move. No one heard her breath shift, but the syringe she'd been holding was gone, and the armed man was already collapsing, eyes rolling back, foam gathering at the corner of his mouth. Hannah Blake stood perfectly still, her scrubs stained with someone else's blood, her hands steady as iron. Around her, 6 more armed men were storming through the doors of the Arroyo Verde Clinic in Red Mesa, Arizona, dragging a bleeding woman between them and screaming threats in 2 languages. They thought they'd found an easy target, a rundown border clinic staffed by nobodies, a place where the law moved slow and help came late. They thought wrong. Because Hannah wasn't just another overworked, invisible nurse grinding through double shifts for minimum wage. She was something else entirely, something they'd never see coming. If you want to know what happens when the deadliest person in the room is the one no one's paying attention to, stay with me until the end. Drop a like, leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The first gunshot came at 9:47 p.m., just as Hannah was finishing her 3rd suture on a diabetic trucker who'd sliced his hand open, changing a tire. The sound echoed through the clinic's thin walls like a thunderclap, and everyone in the waiting room flinched, everyone except Hannah. She tied off the stitch without pausing, snipped the thread clean, and pressed a gauze pad to the wound. "Keep pressure on that for 10 minutes, she said. Her voice was calm, almost flat. The trucker stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Lady, someone just—" "I heard it." She stripped off her gloves, tossed them in the biohazard bin, and walked toward the front desk. Her sneakers squeaked softly on the linoleum. She moved like someone who'd walked toward gunfire before, and lived to tell about it, or more accurately, lived and chose not to tell about it. The waiting room had emptied fast. A young mother clutching her toddler was halfway out the door. An elderly man with a cane had flattened himself against the vending machine. Behind the desk, Mia Torres, a nursing assistant barely 2 months out of school, was frozen, her phone halfway to her ear, her fingers shaking so hard she couldn't dial. Hannah reached over and gently took the phone from her hand. "Not yet," she said quietly. "Are you insane?" Mia hissed. "Someone's shooting out there, which is why we don't call until we know what we're dealing with." Hannah's eyes flicked to the windows. The parking lot was lit by a single flickering streetlight. 2 black SUVs had pulled up at bad angles, doors hanging open. Shadows moved fast between them. Then the front doors burst inward. 6 men poured into the clinic like a flood. They were dressed in mismatched tactical gear, cargo pants, boots, vests without plates. 2 wore balaclavas. 1 had a neck tattoo that crawled up past his jaw. They carried an assortment of weapons: handguns, a sawed-off shotgun, 1 beat-up AK with duct tape holding the stock together. And between them, barely conscious, was a woman in her 30s with a gunshot wound to the abdomen, her shirt soaked black with blood. The man in front, tall, scarred, missing 2 fingers on his left hand, leveled his pistol at the room. Nobody moves, nobody calls, nobody dies. His English was clean, but his accent placed him south of the border. Sonora, maybe. Sinaloa, if Hannah had to guess. Hannah didn't move, didn't flinch. She just watched. The scarred man scanned the room, counted heads, then locked eyes with her. "You, nurse, you're going to save her." He jerked his head toward the bleeding woman. "She dies, you die. Everybody dies." Hannah looked at the woman, assessed the wound in 2 seconds. Entry just below the ribs, exit through the back, likely liver damage, possible bowel perforation, blood loss, severe but not immediately fatal. Then looked back at the man. "I'll need help." "You got hands, use them." "I'll need another set. And supplies. And space." The man's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, close enough that Hannah could smell gunpowder and cheap cologne. He shoved the barrel of his pistol against her sternum. "You giving me orders?" "I'm telling you what it takes to keep her alive." Hannah's voice didn't waver. Her heart rate didn't spike. She'd had guns pointed at her before. Bigger guns, held by better trained people, in worse situations. This was just Tuesday with a different accent. The man stared at her for 5 long seconds. Then he lowered the gun. "Fine. 1 helper. Make it fast." Hannah turned to Mia, who looked like she was about to vomit. "Mia, with me." I can't." "Yes, you can." Hannah's tone left no room for argument. She grabbed a pair of gloves from the box on the counter and tossed another pair to Mia. Exam room 3. Move. They hauled the woman onto a gurney and wheeled her down the hallway. The armed men followed, boots heavy on the tile. One of them, a younger guy, maybe 22, with a crucifix tattoo on his forearm, kept his shotgun trained on the civilians huddled in the waiting room. Another stood guard at the door. The rest crowded into the hallway outside the exam room, watching through the window like vultures. Hannah kicked the door shut behind her. It didn't lock. Exam rooms never did, but it was something. She pulled the gurney under the overhead light and flipped it on. The woman groaned, her eyelids fluttering. Mia, start an IV. 2 lines, if you can get them. Grab every bag of saline we have. Mia's hands were shaking so badly she dropped the catheter twice. Hannah didn't say anything. She just pulled on her gloves, grabbed scissors, and cut the woman's shirt away. The wound was worse up close, ragged, infected at the edges, at least 12 hours old. This woman had been bleeding out slowly, somewhere far from help, before they dragged her here. Why didn't they take her to a hospital? Mia whispered. Because hospitals ask questions. Hannah pressed a stack of gauze to the wound and applied pressure. Blood welled up between her fingers, warm and slick. And people like this don't like questions. The door banged open. The scarred man stepped inside, gun still in hand. How long? As long as it takes. She's been bleeding for hours. You got minutes. Hannah didn't look up. Then stop talking and let me work. His eyes narrowed. For a moment, she thought he might shoot her right there. But instead, he stepped back into the hallway and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Mia exhaled shakily. You're going to get us killed. Not if I do my job. Hannah grabbed a suture kit from the supply cabinet, ripped it open with her teeth. Hold pressure here. Don't let up. Mia pressed down on the wound, and the woman screamed, a raw, guttural sound that made the armed men outside shift nervously. Hannah ignored it. She threaded the needle, doused the wound with antiseptic, and started closing the entry point. Her hands moved fast, efficient, precise. No wasted motion, no hesitation. This wasn't the first time she'd worked under a gun. It wasn't even the worst. Who is she? Mia asked quietly. Witness, probably. Or a courier. Someone they need alive. Hannah pulled the suture tight, tied it off. Could be family, could be leverage. Doesn't matter. Our job's the same. Our job's not to get shot by cartel hitmen. Our job's to save lives, even the messy ones. Hannah glanced up, met Mia's eyes. You signed up for this when you put on those scrubs. So did I. Mia swallowed hard, nodded. They worked in silence after that. Hannah sutured, cleaned, packed the wound. Mia managed the IV, hung 2 bags of saline, monitored vitals. The woman's pulse was thready but steady. Her breathing shallow but consistent. She wasn't out of the woods, not even close, but she was stable. For now. Outside, one of the men was pacing, muttering into a phone in rapid Spanish. Hannah caught fragments. Still bleeding. Gringa nurse. How much longer? Someone was pulling strings. Someone higher up the chain was waiting for a status update. Hannah stood, stripped off her gloves, and opened the door. The scarred man was leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette, even though there were no smoking signs plastered everywhere. He looked up, exhaled smoke through his nose. She stable? For now. She needs a hospital, real equipment, blood transfusion? Not happening. Then she'll die in the next 6 hours, maybe less. He flicked ash on the floor. Not your problem anymore. It is if you're planning to kill me when she codes. The man smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. You got a mouth on you, nurse. I've got a job to do. Let me do it, or don't. But stop pretending this ends any other way than it does. He took a long drag, studying her. You're not scared. I'm terrified. I'm just good at my job. He laughed, short, sharp, humorless. Then he stepped closer, so close she could see the scar tissue around his left eye, the faint tremor in his gun hand. You know what I think? I think you've seen worse than me. I think you've done worse. Hannah didn't answer. She just held his gaze. The man grinned. Yeah, I knew it. A shout from the waiting room cut through the tension. One of the guards was yelling, waving his gun at someone. Hannah turned, her pulse spiking for the first time since this started. Through the window, she could see a man in an EMT uniform, Gary Whitlock, the paramedic who ran night shifts out of the county station, standing in the doorway with his hands raised. "I got a call," Gary was saying, voice shaking. "Gunshot victim. Critical. Nobody called you." The guard shoved the shotgun barrel against Gary's chest. "Turn around. Leave." "I can help. I said leave." Hannah moved before she thought about it. She pushed past the scarred man, walked straight into the waiting room, and put herself between Gary and the shotgun. "He's right. I called him." The guard blinked, confused. "What?" "I called for backup. Your friend in there needs more than I can give her with what we have. He's got equipment, plasma, a rig that can stabilize her long enough to move her." The scarred man appeared behind her, his face dark with anger. "You called—" "I did what I had to do to keep her alive." Hannah turned to face him, arms crossed. "You want her to survive? You let him help. You want her to die so you can feel tough? Shoot me now and get it over with." The silence that followed was the kind you could suffocate in. Then slowly, the scarred man lowered his gun. He jerked his chin at Gary. "You try anything, you die first." Gary nodded, pale and sweating. Hannah grabbed his arm, pulled him toward the exam room. "Come on." Once inside, Gary leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "What the hell is going on?" "Cartel hit, hostage situation. Woman's got a GSW to the abdomen. We've stabilized her, but she's crashing." "But Jesus Christ, Hannah. I know. We need to call. We will, when it's safe." She handed him a blood pressure cuff. "For now, just help me keep her alive." Gary stared at her, searching her face for something. Fear, maybe. Panic. But Hannah had locked all that down years ago, buried it so deep even she forgot where it lived. She just looked back at him, steady and calm. "Okay," Gary said finally. "Okay." They worked together, adjusting the IV drip, checking the woman's pupils, monitoring her oxygen levels. Hannah moved around the room with a kind of deliberate precision, repositioning equipment, shifting the gurney slightly to the left, angling the overhead light just so. Gary didn't notice at first. He was too focused on the woman's vitals. But Hannah was doing something else entirely. She was mapping the room, calculating angles, identifying cover, counting exits. She was preparing. Outside, the armed men were getting restless. One of them kept checking his phone, muttering curses. Another was arguing with the scarred man in low, harsh Spanish. The young guy with the crucifix tattoo was standing too close to the civilians, his finger resting on the shotgun's trigger. A kid, couldn't have been more than 7, was crying softly in his mother's arms. Hannah watched through the window, her jaw tight. This wasn't sustainable. Someone was going to snap. Someone was going to make a mistake. And when they did, people were going to die. She needed to be ready when that happened. Gary glanced at her. "You okay?" "Fine." "You don't look fine." "I'm thinking." "About what?" Hannah didn't answer. She was watching the scarred man, the way he moved, the way he held his gun. He was experienced, former military probably, trained, disciplined. But he was also stressed, running on adrenaline and bad decisions. That made him dangerous. It also made him predictable. The woman on the gurney coughed, a wet, rattling sound. Blood flecked her lips. Hannah grabbed a suction tube, cleared her airway, checked her pulse. Still there, still fighting. "She's got maybe 2 hours," Gary whispered. 3 if we're lucky. "Then we buy her 3. Gary shook his head. "Hannah, I don't know what you think you can—" The door slammed open again. This time it was a different man, older, heavier, with a gold chain around his neck and a pistol tucked into his waistband. He looked at the woman on the gurney, then at Hannah. "She gonna make it?" "If she gets to a real hospital, maybe." "That's not the plan." "Then the plan's gonna kill her." The man's expression didn't change. "You let me worry about that." He turned to the scarred man. "We're moving in 10. Get the truck ready." "She's not stable." "I don't care." He looked at Hannah. "You did good, nurse. But we're done here. You take her out there, she'll bleed out in the truck. Not your problem. It is if you shoot everyone in this clinic on your way out." Hannah's voice was cold now, edged with something sharp. "Which is what you're planning, isn't it?" The man smiled. You're smart. That's dangerous. You're predictable. That's worse. His smile vanished. He pulled the pistol from his waistband, cocked it, and aimed it directly at her face. You got a death wish, lady. Hannah didn't blink. You've got 18 civilians in that waiting room. You kill them, you're front page news. Every cop in 3 states will be hunting you. You let them go, you're just another border skirmish that gets buried by Monday. The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Or I kill you, and everyone else shuts up. Try it. Hannah's voice was barely a whisper. See what happens. For a moment, the world narrowed to the space between them. The gun, the woman, the choice. Then, from somewhere outside, a new sound. Helicopter rotors. Everyone froze. The armed men turned toward the windows, confusion and panic rippling through them. The scarred man grabbed his radio, barked something in Spanish. A voice crackled back, frantic and broken. The man with the gold chain swore, loud and vicious. It's a setup. No, Hannah said quietly. It's justice catching up. He swung the gun toward her, and the lights went out. Everything happened at once. The helicopter rotors grew louder, closer. Flashlights swept through the windows, cutting through the dark. Someone outside was shouting orders through a megaphone, demanding surrender in English and Spanish. The armed men scattered, yelling, weapons raised. In the chaos, Hannah moved. She grabbed the nearest metal tray, heavy with surgical tools, and swung it hard into the gold-chained man's wrist. The gun went flying, skittering across the floor. He lunged for her, but she was already gone, slipping past him into the hallway. She grabbed Mia, pulled her down behind the reception desk. Stay low, Hannah hissed. Don't move. Gunfire erupted. Short, sharp bursts from outside, answered by wild shots from inside. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. The young guy with the crucifix tattoo fired the shotgun blindly into the dark, and the sound was deafening in the confined space. Hannah crawled forward, staying below the line of fire, moving toward the waiting room. She could see the civilians huddled in the corner, the mother covering her child's body with her own. The elderly man with the cane was on the floor, eyes wide with terror. She reached them, touched the mother's shoulder. When I say go, you run, straight out the side exit. Don't stop. I can't. You can. You will. Hannah's eyes were hard, unblinking. Go. The mother grabbed her child and ran, low and fast. The elderly man followed, stumbling but moving. One by one, Hannah got them out, guiding them through the chaos, using her body as a shield when the bullets came too close. Outside, the helicopter was landing. Floodlights blazed to life, turning night into day. Armored vehicles rolled into the parking lot, and men in tactical gear poured out, voices amplified by loudspeakers. Federal agents, drop your weapons, hands up! Inside, the armed men were panicking. 2 of them bolted for the back exit. The scarred man grabbed the gold-chained one, dragged him toward the exam room. They were going for the woman, their only leverage left. Hannah saw it happening. She saw the angle, the intent, the desperation, and she made a choice. She stepped into the hallway directly in their path. No weapon. No backup. Just her. The scarred man stopped, gun raised. Move! No! I'll kill you. You'll try. He pulled the trigger, and nothing happened. The gun jammed. Hannah didn't hesitate. She closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed his wrist, twisted hard, bone cracked. The gun dropped. She drove her knee into his stomach, and he doubled over, gasping. The gold-chained man swung at her, but she ducked, swept his legs, and he went down hard. By the time the federal agents breached the door, it was over. Both men were on the ground, disarmed, groaning. Hannah stood over them, breathing hard, her scrubs torn and blood-stained, her hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. An agent in full tactical gear approached her, weapon lowered. Ma'am, are you? I'm fine. She turned, walked back toward the exam room. There's a woman in there. Gunshot wound. She needs a hospital. Now. The agent stared at her, then nodded and spoke into his radio. Within seconds, a team of medics rushed past, equipment in hand. Hannah watched them go, then sank down against the wall, her legs finally giving out. Mia appeared beside her, pale and trembling but alive. How did you... Training, Hannah said quietly. A long time ago. What kind of training? Hannah didn't answer. She just closed her eyes and listened to the sound of helicopter blades cutting through the night, the federal agents securing the scene, the survivors being led to safety. Someone crouched down beside her. She opened her eyes. It was a man in his 50s, gray hair, sharp eyes, wearing a jacket with DEA stenciled across the back. He looked at her for a long moment, recognition dawning slowly. "Blake?" he said, disbelief in his voice. "Hannah Blake?" She met his gaze, didn't flinch. "Hello, Morrison. I thought you were dead." "I got better." He shook his head, almost laughing. "We've been tracking that cell for 8 months, lost 2 agents, and you just, what, took them down with a stethoscope?" "Something like that." Morrison stood, offered her a hand. She took it, let him pull her to her feet. "The woman in there, she's a witness. The only one who can put Vargas away for good. We've been looking for her for weeks." Hannah glanced toward the exam room, where the medics were loading the woman onto a stretcher. "She gonna make it?" "Because of you? Yeah, she'll make it." Hannah nodded slowly. "Good." Morrison studied her, his expression unreadable. "You could have called us, could have let us handle it. You weren't here. I was. You were supposed to be done with this life." "I am done." She looked around at the shattered glass, the bullet holes, the bloodstains. "This was just a bad Tuesday." Morrison didn't laugh. He just watched her like he was trying to reconcile the woman standing in front of him with the ghost he'd thought was long buried. Finally, he sighed. "You're going to have to give a statement. They're going to want to know—" "I know." Hannah pulled off her gloves, tossed them in the biohazard bin. "But not tonight. Tonight I've got patients to check on." She walked away before he could argue, past the agents and the flashing lights and the camera crews already setting up outside. She found the mother and child in the parking lot, wrapped in blankets, being checked by paramedics. The woman looked up as Hannah approached, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Hannah just nodded. She didn't know what else to say. By the time the sun came up, the scene was clear. The armed men were in custody. The witness was en route to a secure facility. The clinic was a crime scene, cordoned off with yellow tape. And Hannah Blake, quiet, invisible, nobody special, Hannah Blake, was standing in the parking lot with a cup of terrible coffee, watching the sunrise paint the desert red and gold. Morrison walked over, handed her a business card. "You ever want your old job back?" She looked at the card, then at him. "I don't." "Yeah, I figured." He hesitated. "For what it's worth, you saved a lot of lives tonight. That's the job." "No." Morrison shook his head. "That's a calling, and you're damn good at it." He walked away, leaving her alone with the sunrise and the ghosts of the life she'd left behind. Hannah finished her coffee, crushed the cup, and tossed it in the trash. Then she turned and headed back toward the clinic. There were still patients to see, wounds to stitch, prescriptions to fill. Just another day in Red Mesa. Just another quiet nurse doing her job. And somewhere, in a federal holding cell, the scarred man sat with his head in his hands, whispering the same thing over and over. She was just a nurse, just a damn nurse. But he was wrong. Hannah Blake was never just anything. She never got a chance to treat those patients. The clinic stayed sealed for 3 days. Crime scene investigators worked in shifts, photographing bullet holes, cataloging shell casings, scraping blood samples from the linoleum. Hannah spent those 72 hours in a Holiday Inn 6 miles down the highway, sleeping in 2-hour intervals and refusing to answer her phone. Morrison called 14 times. Mia called twice, then stopped. The clinic director, a man named Paul Hendricks who wore too much cologne and never worked past 5, left a voicemail that was equal parts concern and legal liability. Hannah deleted it without listening to the whole thing. On the 4th morning, she drove back to the clinic. The yellow tape was gone, but the damage remained. Bullet-shattered windows covered with plywood, bloodstains scrubbed but still visible if you knew where to look. The waiting room chairs had been rearranged, probably by someone who'd never actually worked there, and now the whole layout felt wrong, like walking into your childhood home after strangers had moved in. She pushed through the front door and found Paul standing behind the reception desk, flipping through insurance forms with the enthusiasm of a man attending his own funeral. He looked up, saw her, and his expression went through 3 distinct phases: relief, confusion, then something closer to fear. Hannah, Jesus, I didn't think you'd come back. I work here. You almost died here. Almost doesn't count. She walked past him toward the supply closet, grabbing a box of gloves. We reopening today or what? Paul set down the forms, rubbed his temples like he was trying to massage away a migraine. The board wants to meet with you. They've got questions. I gave my statement to the feds. This isn't about the feds. This is about liability, insurance, the fact that our clinic became a goddamn war zone, and you... He stopped, searching for the right words. You handled it in a way that raises questions. Hannah turned slowly. What kind of questions? The kind where they want to know if you're trained in something other than nursing. The kind where they're wondering if having you on staff makes this place a target. She felt something cold settle in her chest. You're firing me. I'm not firing you. But the board thinks maybe a leave of absence. How long? Paul hesitated. Indefinite. Hannah laughed. Short, sharp, humorless. Right. So I save 18 lives, stop a cartel execution squad, and my reward is getting benched. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Paul? Her voice stayed level, but there was an edge to it now, something that made him take a half step back. You want me gone because I make people uncomfortable, because I don't fit the story you want to tell. Quiet clinic, quiet staff, nothing to see here. That's not fair. Fair doesn't keep people alive. She tossed the gloves back into the box. Fine, I'll clear out my locker. Hannah, wait. But she was already walking away, past the exam rooms where she'd stitched up hundreds of people, past the break room where she'd eaten terrible vending machine sandwiches and listened to Mia complain about her boyfriend, past the life she'd built for herself out of the wreckage of the one she'd left behind. Her locker was in the back, next to the storage room that smelled like bleach and regret. She spun the combination 12784, her father's birthday, and pulled out the contents. A spare pair of scrubs, a toothbrush, a protein bar that had expired 4 months ago, and at the very back, wrapped in an old towel, a flip phone she hadn't turned on in 6 years. She stared at it for a long moment, then shoved it into her bag and slammed the locker shut. Paul was waiting by the front desk when she came back through. He opened his mouth to say something, but Hannah just walked past him and out into the parking lot, into the flat desert heat that hit like a physical thing. Her car, a 15-year-old Honda with a cracked windshield and a passenger door that stuck, was parked in the same spot it had been 3 nights ago, before everything went sideways. She slid into the driver's seat, cranked the AC, and sat there with her hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Another call from Morrison. She ignored it. Then a text came through. Not from Morrison, from a number she didn't recognize. You did good work last night. We should talk. LV. Hannah's jaw tightened. She deleted the message, blocked the number, and started the car. She made it halfway across the parking lot before a black sedan pulled in front of her, blocking the exit. The driver's door opened and a woman stepped out. Mid-40s, dark suit, sunglasses that cost more than Hannah's monthly rent. She moved with the kind of confidence that came from carrying a badge and knowing exactly how much authority it bought. Hannah put the car in park but didn't get out. The woman walked over, tapped on the window. Hannah rolled it down an inch. Hannah Blake? Depends on who's asking. The woman pulled out a badge. FBI, Special Agent Lena Vargas. Hannah's stomach dropped. I'm not related to the case, Vargas said, reading her expression. Different Vargas, common name. What do you want? 5 minutes. Off the record. Hannah considered just driving off. Plywood exit be damned. But something in Vargas's expression made her hesitate. This wasn't a cop looking to close a case. This was something else. She killed the engine. Clock's ticking. Vargas walked around to the passenger side, opened the door. It stuck. She had to yank it twice and slid in. She took off her sunglasses, and Hannah saw the dark circles under her eyes, the kind that came from too many late nights and not enough answers. You were Army, Vargas said. Not a question. Hannah didn't respond. Special Operations. Medic. Deployed 3 times. Iraq, Afghanistan, somewhere in East Africa they won't tell me about. Honorable discharge in 2018. You disappeared after that. No social media, no credit cards, just gone. Sounds like you know everything already.
I know the file. I don't know why. Why what? Why you walked away? Why you're working minimum wage at a border clinic when you could be teaching at Quantico? Why you threw yourself between armed killers and civilians like it was just another Tuesday? Vargas leaned forward. What are you running from, Blake? Hannah stared straight ahead, at the plywood covering the clinic windows, at the scorch marks on the asphalt where someone had burned out their tires. I'm not running. I'm just done. With what? The part where I carry a gun and people die. Vargas was quiet for a moment. Then she said, The woman you saved, her name's Maria Salazar. She was a bookkeeper for the Vargas cartel. Not my family, she added quickly. Eduardo Vargas, no relation. She skimmed records, hid evidence, documented every transaction for 8 years. Then she tried to run. They shot her, dumped her in the desert. Would have finished the job if you hadn't kept her alive. Good for her. She's testifying next week, federal grand jury. If she talks, we take down half the cartel infrastructure in 3 states. If she doesn't, we've got nothing. Hannah turned to look at Vargas. What's this got to do with me? The cartel knows who you are. They know you saved her, and they're not happy about it. Too bad. Hannah, listen to me. No, you listen. Hannah's voice was cold now, final. I did my job. I saved a life. That's it. I'm not a witness. I'm not a target. I'm just a nurse who got caught in the wrong place. You really believe that? I have to. Vargas studied her, then sighed and pulled a business card from her jacket. She set it on the dashboard. You change your mind, call me. Day or night. I won't. Yeah. Vargas opened the door, paused. For what it's worth, what you did in there. That was the bravest thing I've seen in 20 years of doing this job. And I've seen a lot. She got out, closed the door, and walked back to her sedan. Hannah sat there until the black car disappeared down the highway, until the parking lot was empty again, except for her and the heat shimmers rising off the asphalt. Then she picked up the business card, read it once, and shoved it into the glove compartment next to the expired registration and a stack of unpaid parking tickets. She drove to her apartment, a studio above a pawn shop that smelled like old leather and desperation, and spent the next 2 days doing absolutely nothing. She slept 14 hours the first night, woke up disoriented, ate cereal straight from the box, and went back to bed. The second day she tried to watch TV, but every channel was running the same story. Hero nurse stops cartel attack. They'd gotten a photo of her from somewhere, her driver's license maybe, and plastered it across the screen alongside shaky cell phone footage of the aftermath. She turned off the TV and threw the remote across the room. Her phone rang. Morrison again. Then Mia. Then a number with a DC area code that she didn't recognize and definitely didn't answer. On the third day, she got a visitor. The knock came at 7 a.m., sharp and insistent. Hannah rolled out of bed, pulled on sweatpants and a tank top, and checked the peephole. A man stood in the hallway, early 60s, gray hair, military short, wearing jeans and a faded Marines t-shirt. He looked tired, weathered, like he'd been carrying something heavy for a very long time. Hannah opened the door. Hey, kiddo, her father said. She stared at him. What are you doing here? Saw the news, figured you could use some company. I'm fine. You look like hell. Thanks, Dad. Real supportive. Thomas Blake smiled, just a little, just enough. You gonna let me in or make me stand out here like a door-to-door salesman? Hannah stepped aside and he walked in, taking in the studio apartment with one sweep of his eyes. The unmade bed, the empty cereal box on the counter, the TV remote in 2 pieces on the floor. Nice place, he said. It's temporary. You've been here 4 years. Still temporary. He picked up the cereal box, tossed it in the trash, and sat down on the only chair, folding metal things she'd gotten from a yard sale. He looked at her, really looked, the way only a parent can. You want to tell me what happened? You saw the news. I saw the sanitized version. I want to hear it from you. So she told him. Not everything. Some things you didn't tell your father, even when he'd been Delta Force for 23 years, but enough. The armed men. The wounded woman. The split-second decisions that meant the difference between 18 body bags and 0. Thomas listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. You did the right thing, he said finally.
The clinic doesn't think so. They put me on leave. Because they're scared of lawsuits, not because you were wrong. Doesn't change the outcome. Thomas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Hannah, you spent 8 years in the army saving lives under fire. You earned a Silver Star dragging 3 wounded men out of a hot zone in Kandahar. You walked away from all of it because you were tired of watching people die. And now you're telling me you regret saving 18 civilians? I don't regret it. Then what's the problem? Hannah sat down on the edge of the bed, ran her hands through her hair. I thought I was done, Dad. I thought I'd left that life behind, but 3 nights ago, when those men walked in with guns, I wasn't scared. I was ready, like I'd been waiting for it. Maybe you were. That's what scares me. Thomas nodded slowly. You know what your mother used to say? She said some people are born to run toward danger instead of away from it. Not because they're fearless, because they can't live with themselves if they don't. Mom said that? Right before she married me. He smiled, sad and distant. She knew what she was signing up for, and she did it anyway. Hannah felt something twist in her chest. Her mother had died when she was 12. A car accident on a rainy highway, gone in an instant. She barely remembered her voice anymore, just fragments, lullabies, laughter. The way she smelled like vanilla and coffee. I miss her, Hannah said quietly. Me too, kiddo. Every damn day. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of comfortable quiet that only comes from shared grief and years of understanding. Then Thomas stood, walked to the window, looked down at the street below. You got options, he said. You could stay here, find another clinic, keep your head down. Or you could stop pretending you're done and admit you're just getting started. Hannah frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Thomas turned back to her. Morrison called me. Said the feds want you as a consultant. Hostage situations, tactical medicine, high-risk operations. They'd pay you 3 times what you're making now, give you full benefits, and you'd actually be doing something that matters. I was doing something that mattered. You were hiding. His voice was gentle but firm. And I get it. After what you saw, what you did, anyone would want to hide. But that's not who you are, Hannah. You're not built for quiet. Maybe I want to be. Wanting and being are 2 different things. Hannah stood, crossed her arms. You came all the way from Denver to tell me to go back to work? I came all the way from Denver to remind you who you are. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, handed it to her. Morrison's number, and someone else you might want to talk to. Hannah unfolded the paper. 2 names, 2 numbers. Morrison's she recognized. The other was labeled Colonel Rebecca Stone, Medcom. Who's Stone? Someone who understands what you're capable of and what you're afraid of. Hannah stared at the paper, then at her father. I don't want to go back. Then don't. But stop lying to yourself about why. He kissed her forehead the way he used to when she was little and walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the knob. You know what I'm proud of? Not the medals, not the kills. I'm proud that when it mattered, when the bullets were flying and people were dying, you chose to save lives instead of take them. That's not weakness, kiddo. That's the hardest thing a soldier can do. Then he was gone, and Hannah was alone again with the business card, the phone numbers, and a choice she didn't want to make. She spent the rest of the day walking. No destination, no plan, just movement. She walked through Red Mesa's 3-block downtown, past the diner where she sometimes got breakfast, past the gas station where the owner always gave her free coffee, past the elementary school where kids were playing soccer in the dirt field out back. Normal life. Quiet life. The life she'd wanted. The life that suddenly felt too small. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. This time she answered. Hannah Blake? Who is this? My name's Dr. Elliot Reeves. I'm the chief of trauma surgery at Mercy General in Phoenix. I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. Hannah stopped walking. How'd you get this number? Friend of a friend. Look, I saw what you did at that clinic. The way you handled a mass casualty situation with almost no resources. That's the kind of instinct you can't teach. I want you on my team. I'm not a surgeon. No, but you're the best trauma nurse I've seen in 20 years of doing this. I'm offering you a position. Trauma unit, night shift, double your current salary, full benefits. And you'd be working with people who actually appreciate what you can do. Hannah's throat was tight. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. But Hannah, don't waste your talent on people who don't deserve it. He hung up before she could respond. She stood there on the sidewalk, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Around her, Red Mesa moved at its usual slow pace. A dog barked somewhere. A car horn honked. Life, continuing, indifferent. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Mia. They hired someone to replace you. Started today. Thought you should know. Hannah read it twice, then put her phone away and kept walking. By the time the sun set, she'd made a decision. She drove back to her apartment, dug the flip phone out of her bag, and powered it on for the first time in 6 years. It took 3 minutes to boot up, and when it did, there was only one contact saved. She dialed. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. This is Stone. Hannah took a breath. Colonel, this is Hannah Blake. My father said you might be expecting my call. I was beginning to think you wouldn't. Stone's voice was crisp, efficient, the kind of voice that had given 1,000 orders and expected everyone to be followed. Your father speaks highly of you. He's biased. Your service record speaks for itself. Silver Star, 3 combat deployments, 87 confirmed lives saved under fire. You were one of the best combat medics we ever had. I left for a reason. And now you're calling for a reason. Stone paused. What changed? Hannah thought about the clinic, the armed men, the woman bleeding out on the gurney, the choice she'd made without thinking, the instinct that had kicked in before fear had a chance to register. I thought I was done saving people, she said quietly. Turns out I was wrong. Good, because we need you. For what? There's a situation developing, high-risk medical operation, classified location, time-sensitive. The team we have is excellent, but they don't have your experience in hostile environments. I'm not military anymore. I'm aware. This would be contractor work. 3 weeks, full tactical support. And if it goes well, there are other opportunities. What kind of operation? The kind where people die if you're not there. The kind where being very good at your job isn't enough. You have to be the best. Hannah closed her eyes. She could say no. Hang up, delete the number, go back to hiding. But she'd been hiding for 6 years, and it hadn't made her happy. It had just made her numb. When do I start? There's a flight out of Phoenix tomorrow at 0600. Someone will meet you at the airport with a briefing packet. Pack light. We'll provide everything else. Colonel, Blake, I'm not going to lie to you. This is dangerous. People have died doing what I'm asking you to do, but you're one of the few people in the world who can actually pull it off. So I'm asking, are you in or out? Hannah looked around her apartment, the unmade bed, the empty fridge, the life she'd built out of fear and regret. I'm in, she said. Good. See you on the other side. Stone hung up. Hannah sat there for a long time, phone in hand, feeling something she hadn't felt in years, purpose. And underneath that, buried deeper, something else. Fear. Real, visceral, bone-deep fear. She was walking back into the fire, and this time, she didn't know if she'd make it out. Her phone buzzed one more time, a text from an unknown number. You made the right choice. We'll be in touch. LV. Hannah stared at the message, ice forming in her veins. LV Lena Vargas. The FBI agent who'd shown up at the clinic, who'd told her the cartel knew her name, who'd warned her she was already a target. Hannah's finger hovered over the delete button. Then she stopped. She opened a new text, typed 3 words. How did you know? The response came 15 seconds later. Because I'm the one who recommended you. Hannah's blood ran cold. She called the number. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. Her heart was pounding now, adrenaline kicking in hard. She grabbed her bag, threw in clothes, toiletries, the flip phone. She was halfway to the door when someone knocked. She froze. 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. Hannah moved to the peephole, looked through. A man stood in the hallway, 30s, clean-cut, wearing a delivery uniform. He held a package. Hannah didn't open the door. Leave it outside. Need a signature, ma'am. Leave it outside. The man smiled. Can't do that. Hannah's instinct screamed. She stepped back from the door, reached for her phone. The door exploded inward, lock shattering, wood splintering. The man in the delivery uniform came through fast, gun already drawn, 2 more men behind him. Hannah didn't think. She grabbed the folding chair, swung it hard into the first man's face. Bone crunched. He went down. The second man raised his gun, but Hannah was already moving, throwing herself behind the bed, scrambling for the window. A gunshot cracked. The window exploded. Glass rained down. Hannah rolled, came up with a shard of glass in her hand, and drove it into the third man's leg. He screamed. She ripped the gun from his hand, spun, fired twice. Center mass. He dropped. The second man was on her, grabbing her wrist, slamming her hand against the wall until the gun fell. They grappled, crashing into the kitchenette, knocking over the trash can. He was bigger, stronger, trained, but Hannah had fought in Kandahar. She'd survived ambushes and mortar fire and men who wanted her dead. She wasn't easy to kill. She drove her knee into his groin, and when he doubled over, she brought her elbow down on the back of his skull. He collapsed, unconscious. Hannah stood there, breathing hard, surrounded by 3 bodies and the wreckage of her apartment. Her phone was ringing. She grabbed it, answered without looking. "Hannah, listen to me very carefully." It was Vargas, and her voice was pure ice.
Get out of there. Now. They're not after you because of Maria. They're after you because of what you're about to do. What are you talking about? The mission Stone recruited you for. It's not what you think, and the cartel knows about it. They've got someone on the inside feeding them intel. You walk into that briefing tomorrow, you're dead. Hannah's mind raced. How do you know this? Because I've been tracking them for 6 months.
And because the woman you saved? Maria Salazar? She's my sister. The world tilted. Get somewhere safe, Vargas said. Don't trust anyone. I'll contact you in 48 hours with a location. Can you do that? Hannah looked at the bodies, the shattered door, the blood on her hands. Yeah, I can do that. Good. And Hannah? Whatever happens next, don't come alone. The line went dead. Hannah grabbed her bag, stepped over the unconscious men, and ran. She made it 3 blocks before the first tail picked her up. Black SUV, tinted windows, staying 2 cars back but making no effort to hide. Hannah spotted it in her rear view as she blew through a red light on Copper Avenue, her Honda's engine screaming in protest. She wasn't running toward anything, just away, toward the highway, toward open road and options. The SUV closed the gap. Hannah yanked the wheel hard right, cutting through a gas station parking lot and clipping a trash can that exploded in a spray of cups and fast food wrappers. She shot back onto the street going the wrong way, headlights flashing in her face, horns blaring. The SUV tried to follow but got caught behind a delivery truck. She bought herself 90 seconds. Not enough. Her phone rang. She answered on speaker, eyes locked on the road. Where are you? Morrison's voice, tight with urgency. Being chased by people who want me dead. Where the hell are you? Federal building, 20 minutes south. Get here and we can protect you. Or I walk into a building full of people and get everyone killed. Hannah, Vargas said there's a leak. Someone on the inside, that could be your office, Morrison. Silence. Then quieter. You trust her? I don't trust anyone. Hannah checked the mirror. The SUV was back, running the red light, closing fast. But she's the only one who's been straight with me. Listen to me very carefully. Whatever Vargas told you, she's got her own agenda. Her sister went missing 18 months ago. She's been chasing ghosts ever since, burning bridges, making accusations she can't prove. If she says there's a leak, then maybe there is. A second vehicle appeared in her mirror, a motorcycle, rider in black, visor down. It wove through traffic like water, closing the distance with mechanical precision. Hannah cursed, floored the accelerator. The Honda hit 70 on a street with a posted limit of 35. Ahead, the intersection at Mesquite was turning red. She didn't slow down. Hannah, what's happening? Morrison's voice crackled through the speaker. Call you back. She ended the call and punched through the intersection doing 80. A sedan swerved, missed her by inches. The SUV followed. The motorcycle was faster. Her mind worked the problem like a tactical equation. 2 pursuers. 1 vehicle. No backup. No weapons except the gun she'd taken from the apartment. A Glock 19, half a magazine, maybe 8 rounds. Not enough firepower. Not enough time. She needed to change the equation. Up ahead, the highway on-ramp split into two lanes, eastbound toward Albuquerque, westbound toward nothing but desert and small towns that died in the 80s. Hannah waited until the last possible second, then yanked the wheel left, shooting across 3 lanes of traffic onto the westbound ramp. The SUV followed. The motorcycle hesitated, then split off, disappearing into traffic. Hannah's jaw tightened. One problem down, one to go. The highway opened up, flat and straight, stretching into the desert like a scar. Hannah pushed the Honda to 90, then 100. The engine rattled, threatening to shake apart. The SUV kept pace, closing steadily. They were going to run her off the road or shoot out her tires. Either way, she had maybe 3 minutes before this ended badly. She needed a plan. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. Exit 47. Abandoned truck stop. East side. I'll be waiting. LV. Hannah's hands tightened on the wheel. 47 was 8 miles out. She'd never make it. Another text. Trust me. Hannah laughed. Sharp. Bitter. Trust. The word felt like a sick joke. But she was out of options and running out of road. She took the exit. The truck stop materialized out of the desert like a corpse. Rusted pumps, shattered windows, a faded sign that read, Gas Food Lodging, in letters half-eaten by sun and time. Hannah pulled in fast, gravel spraying, and killed the engine behind the main building. Silence. Just wind and the tick of cooling metal. The SUV pulled in 30 seconds later, parking at the entrance, blocking her only exit. 2 men got out, both armed, both moving with military precision. One went left, one went right, flanking. Hannah grabbed the Glock, checked the magazine. 7 rounds. She cursed quietly. The building was a maze of collapsed ceiling tiles and broken furniture. She moved through it fast, low, counting exits. Front door blocked, side door rusted shut. Back door. Locked from the outside. Footsteps echoed behind her. Close. Getting closer. Hannah pressed herself against the wall beside a broken window, Glock raised, breathing controlled. The first man appeared in the doorway, sweeping the room with his rifle. She waited until he turned, then fired twice. Center mass. He dropped hard. The second man came through fast, already shooting. Bullets punched through drywall, spraying dust and debris. Hannah rolled behind an overturned desk, returned fire. 1 shot, 2. The slide locked back. Empty. The man advanced, rifle trained on her position. Out of bullets, nurse? Hannah didn't answer. She grabbed a piece of rebar from the floor, waited. He rounded the desk. And she drove the rebar through his shoulder, angling down, pinning him to the wall. He screamed. The rifle clattered away. Hannah grabbed it, checked the chamber. Live round. She turned back to the man. Blood was already soaking through his shirt, but he was conscious, eyes wide with pain and something else. Recognition. You're her, he gasped. The one from the clinic. Who sent you? Doesn't matter. You're already dead. Funny. You're the one bleeding out. His smile was red-stained. You think this is about you? You're nothing, just collateral. They want what you know. I don't know anything. Then why'd Vargas recruit you? Hannah's blood went cold. What? The mission. The medical op. It's not what Stone told you. It's an extraction. High-value target. Cartel Kingpin's daughter. She's dying, and they need someone who can keep her alive long enough to trade. He coughed, blood flecking his lips. Vargas set it up. She's using you as bait. Hannah's mind raced. Maria Salazar. Vargas's sister. The woman she'd saved, if what he was saying was true. Where's Vargas now? The man's eyes were already glazing. Doesn't matter. He went limp. Hannah stood, rifle in hand, and walked back through the building. Outside, the desert stretched in every direction, empty and indifferent. Her car was still there. The SUV's engine was running, keys in the ignition. She should run, take the SUV, disappear into the desert, never look back. Instead, she pulled out her phone and called the number Vargas had texted from. It rang once, twice. Then a woman's voice, calm and cold. You made it. Good. Who are you really? A pause. Then, someone trying to save her sister. By using me as bait. By giving you a chance to finish what you started.
Maria's testimony puts Eduardo Vargas away, but his daughter, Isabella, she's the real prize. She knows everything, every account, every shipment, every name. If we get her out, if we keep her alive, the entire cartel collapses. And if I say no, then Maria dies in protective custody when the cartel finds her. Isabella dies in a compound in Sonora, and you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Vargas's voice hardened. You saved my sister once. Help me save her again. Hannah looked at the bodies, the blood, the wreckage. What's the play? Tomorrow. Oh, 600. There's a warehouse in Yuma, industrial district near the rail yards. Come alone. Bring medical gear. We go in. We get Isabella. We get out. That's not a plan. That's suicide. It's the only option we have. Vargas paused. Hannah, I know what I'm asking. I know you walked away from this for a reason. But you're the only person alive who can pull this off. Why me? Because you've done it before. Kandahar, 2017. 3 wounded men, a hot LZ, and a compound full of hostiles. You walked out with all 3 alive. Hannah's throat tightened. How do you know about that? Because one of them was my partner, Eric Navarro. He's FBI now. He told me about the medic who saved his life. Said she moved like a ghost and fought like the devil. Vargas's voice softened, just slightly. He said if I ever needed someone for an impossible job, you were the one. Hannah closed her eyes. Navarro. She remembered him, 23, gut shot, bleeding out on a dirt floor while mortars screamed overhead. She'd dragged him 200 yards to the evac point, under fire the whole way, and held pressure on his wound until the helo landed. She hadn't thought about him in years. Is he in on this? Hannah asked. No, he's chasing a different case, but he'll vouch for me if you need him to. I need more than that. I need proof Maria's alive, proof Isabella's real, proof this isn't just you burning me to settle a score. Fair. A pause. Then Vargas texted something. A photo appeared on Hannah's phone. Maria Salazar, alive, sitting in a safe house, holding today's newspaper. Her eyes were haunted but clear. Then another photo. Isabella Vargas, early 20s, pale, emaciated, hooked to an IV in what looked like a concrete cell. A gunshot wound to the chest, poorly stitched, infected. Hannah's medical training kicked in automatically. Pneumothorax, sepsis, maybe 48 hours left without intervention. She's dying, Hannah said. I know, that's why we're out of time. Hannah looked at the photos, then at the desert, then at her hands. Still steady, still ready. She'd walked away from this life, tried to bury it under scrubs and quiet shifts and the fiction that she could be normal. But normal people didn't survive what she'd survived. Normal people didn't do what she'd done. And normal people didn't get second chances to save lives that mattered. I'm in, Hannah said. But I set the terms. I run medical. I call the shots on anything involving the target. And if this goes sideways, I'm walking out alive. Understood? Understood. One more thing. I need backup. I told you. I don't care what you told me. I'm not walking into a cartel compound with just you and hope. I need someone I trust. Vargas was quiet. Then, you got someone in mind? Hannah thought of her father. 23 years Delta. Retired but still sharp, still dangerous when he needed to be. Yeah, I do. Bring him. Oh, 600, Yuma. Don't be late. The line went dead. Hannah stood there for a long moment, then dialed another number. It rang 3 times before her father picked up. Hannah? You okay? No, I need your help. What kind of help? The kind that might get us both killed. Thomas Blake was silent for exactly 2 seconds. Then, where and when? Hannah smiled despite everything. Yuma, tomorrow morning. Bring your kit. Roger that. She hung up and walked back to the SUV. The bodies could stay where they were. Someone would find them eventually, file a report, close the case. But by then, Hannah would be gone. She drove through the night, windows down, radio off, just the sound of the engine and the road and her own thoughts. Somewhere around midnight, she stopped at a 24-hour diner in a town so small it didn't have a name, just a zip code. The waitress, 60-something, cigarette voice, name tag that said Dolores, poured coffee without asking and set down a menu. "You look like you've had a day," Dolores said. Hannah almost laughed. "Something like that." "Food'll help."
"I recommend the meatloaf. It's terrible, but it's filling. Coffee's fine." Dolores shrugged and walked away. Hannah sat in the corner booth, back to the wall, eyes on the door. Old habits, the kind you didn't unlearn. Her phone buzzed. Text from Morrison. "Where are you? We need to talk." She deleted it. Another buzz. This time from a number she didn't recognize. "You killed 2 of my men. That's expensive. But I'm reasonable. Walk away now, and I'll forget it. Keep going, and I'll make sure they never find your body." E.V. Eduardo Vargas. The man himself. Hannah stared at the message, then typed a response. "Come find me." She hit send and powered off the phone. Dolores came back with a plate, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, something green that might have been peas once. "Figured you needed it anyway. I didn't order. On the house. You look like you're heading into something heavy. Least I can do is make sure you don't go in hungry." Hannah looked at the food, then at Dolores. "How'd you know?" 30 years working nights, you see all kinds. Cops, criminals, people running, people hunting. She refilled the coffee. "You got that look? The one that says you're walking into a fire and you know it." "Maybe I am." "Then eat. You'll need your strength." Hannah picked up the fork. The meatloaf was, as advertised, terrible. She ate every bite. By the time she finished, the sky was starting to lighten. Dawn was an hour out. Yuma was 3 hours away. She paid, left a $20 tip, and walked back to the SUV. The warehouse was exactly where Vargas said it would be. Corrugated metal, rust-stained, wedged between a rail yard and an industrial park that looked like it hadn't seen business in a decade. Hannah pulled up at 5:47 a.m., killed the engine, and waited. Her father's truck appeared at 5:52. He parked beside her, stepped out. He was wearing jeans, boots, and a tactical vest that had seen better days. He carried a duffel bag over one shoulder. "You look like hell," he said. "You're not the first person to tell me that." "You gonna tell me what we're walking into?" Hannah gave him the short version. Cartel compound, dying hostage, extraction under fire, possible ambush, probable death. Thomas listened without interrupting. When she finished, he opened the duffel, pulled out a rifle, an AR-15, well-maintained, scope attached. He checked the chamber, loaded a magazine. "You trust this Vargas woman?" he asked. "No." "Good. Trust gets you killed." He handed her a second vest, a sidearm, extra magazines. "But instinct. Instinct keeps you alive. What's your gut say?" Hannah thought about Maria's photo. Isabella's wound, Vargas's voice when she talked about her sister. "My gut says she's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things." "That include us?" "Probably." Thomas smiled. "Wouldn't be the first time." A car pulled up. Black sedan, government plates. Vargas stepped out, followed by a man Hannah didn't recognize. Mid-30s, dark hair, scar across his left eyebrow. He moved like military. Vargas approached. "This is Marcus Cole, ex-ranger. He's our entry specialist." Hannah looked at Cole, then at Vargas. "You said come alone." "I lied. We need 4 to pull this off. You, me, your father, and Cole." "And if I walk?" "Then Isabella dies, Maria dies, and Eduardo Vargas keeps running a billion-dollar criminal empire." Vargas's eyes were hard, unflinching. "Your call, Blake." Hannah looked at her father. He gave a slight nod. "Your decision." She turned back to Vargas. "What's the play?" Vargas pulled out a tablet, brought up a satellite image. "Compound's 40 miles south, just over the border. 2 buildings, main house and a bunker. Isabella's in the bunker. Guards rotate every 4 hours. Next shift change is 0900. That's our window." "How many guards?" 12, maybe 15. "Armed?" "Heavily." "Extraction?" "Helo. Pilot's waiting 10 miles out. We call when we have Isabella. He comes in hot. We're gone in 90 seconds. Hannah studied the image. "What about Maria?" "Safe house, 3 agents, she's secure." "For now." Vargas's jaw tightened. "Yes, For now. Cole spoke up. We go in fast, hit the bunker, grab the target, exfil before they know what's happening. Standard smash and grab. Except the target's critical, Hannah said. Pneumothorax, sepsis, probably hypovolemic shock. She can't walk, can barely breathe. You move her wrong, she dies. Then don't move her wrong. Hannah glared at him. You want to be helpful or you want to be a smartass? Cole smiled. Can I be both? Thomas stepped between them. Save it for the bad guys. He looked at Vargas. What about extraction logistics? She's unstable, we'll need a gurney, portable oxygen, IV setup, trauma kit. Already loaded in the helo. And if the helo can't land? Vargas didn't answer immediately. Then we carry her out. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken calculations. 40 miles. Hostile territory. A dying woman. No backup. Hannah looked at the satellite image again, committing it to memory. 2 entry points on the bunker. 1 choke point. Limited cover. It was a nightmare scenario. She'd run worse. Okay, she said. Let's do this. They loaded into 2 vehicles, Vargas and Cole in the sedan, Hannah and Thomas in the SUV. The drive south was quiet, tense. They crossed the border at an unmarked point, following dirt roads that barely qualified as roads, through desert that looked exactly the same in every direction. At 08:37, they parked a mile out and went in on foot. The compound appeared through the heat shimmer like a mirage. Whitewashed walls, terracotta roof, too clean for the desert around it. Guards walked the perimeter, rifles slung, radios crackling. Vargas raised binoculars, counted. 14, 2 at the gate, 4 on the main house, 8 on the bunker. Cole pulled out a suppressed pistol. I can drop the gate guards quiet. Get us inside. No. Hannah's voice was firm. We're not here to kill people. We're here for Isabella. They're cartel. I don't care what they are. We go loud, we die. We stay smart. We might get out. Cole looked at Vargas. She nodded. Blake's right. Quiet as long as possible. They moved in during the shift change. 0900 exactly. The guards were distracted, checking phones, lighting cigarettes. Cole and Thomas went wide, flanking. Vargas and Hannah went straight for the bunker. The door was steel, locked from the outside. Vargas pulled a small explosive charge from her pack, set it on the hinges. 30 seconds. Hannah checked her medical bag. Everything was there. Chest tube kit, saline, antibiotics, bandages. Not enough. Never enough. The charge blew, quiet, controlled. The door sagged inward. They were inside. The bunker was concrete and shadows. A single bulb flickered overhead. And there, on a cot in the corner, was Isabella Vargas. She looked worse than the photo. Gray skin, sunken eyes, breathing shallow and wet. The wound in her chest was black with infection, oozing. Hannah knelt beside her, checked her pulse. Thready, weak. Isabella, can you hear me? The woman's eyes fluttered open. Who? I'm here to help. Stay with me. Hannah pulled out her stethoscope, listened. Collapsed lung, fluid buildup. Time was measured in minutes now. She pulled out the chest tube kit, prepped the site. This is going to hurt. Isabella didn't respond, probably couldn't. Hannah made the incision, inserted the tube. Blood and fluid drained out in a rush. Isabella gasped, eyes going wide. Breathe, slow, in through your nose. Footsteps outside, shouting. Vargas appeared in the doorway. We've got company. Guards are coming. I need 5 minutes. We don't have 5 minutes. Gunfire erupted outside, sharp, controlled bursts. Thomas and Cole, holding the perimeter. Hannah worked fast, hands steady despite the chaos. She placed the tube, secured it, started an IV. Saline first, then antibiotics. Isabella's breathing eased, just slightly. Can she move? Vargas asked. Not on her own. Then we carry her. More gunfire. Closer now. Hannah grabbed one side of the cot. Vargas grabbed the other. They lifted, moved toward the door. And a man stepped into the doorway. 50s, silver hair, expensive suit. A pistol in his hand aimed directly at Vargas. Hello, daughter, Eduardo Vargas said quietly. Vargas froze. You didn't think I'd know? Eduardo smiled, cold and empty. You didn't think I'd have someone watching? Hannah's mind raced. Daughter.
Vargas's sister was Maria, which meant, Lena, Eduardo said softly, you were always the smart one, always the one who thought she could fix me, save me. He stepped closer. But you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Lena's hand moved toward her gun. Don't, Eduardo said. The pistol didn't waver. Hannah set down the cot, slow and careful. Her hand drifted toward the rifle slung across her back. Eduardo noticed. You must be the nurse, the one who saved Maria. He looked at Hannah like she was something interesting under glass. My daughter owes you her life. For that, I'm grateful. But you've taken something that belongs to me. Isabella doesn't belong to anyone, Lena said. She's my blood. She's dying because of you. Eduardo's expression didn't change. Then let her die. But you... He aimed at Lena's chest. You don't get to walk away twice. Hannah moved. She grabbed the IV stand, swung it hard. The metal pole caught Eduardo's wrist, and the gun went off, loud, deafening in the small space. The bullet punched through the wall. Hannah followed through, driving the pole into Eduardo's stomach. He doubled over, and Lena was already moving, kicking the gun away, slamming him face first into the concrete. Cuff him, Lena snapped. Hannah pulled zip ties from her vest, bound Eduardo's wrists. He didn't resist, just smiled, blood on his teeth. You think this changes anything? He said. I've got 50 men on the way. You'll never make it out. Lena grabbed her radio. Cole, status? Static. Then, we're pinned. East side. Can't hold much longer. Fall back to the rally point. We're coming out. Hannah grabbed the cot again. We need to move. Now! They carried Isabella out into sunlight and gunfire. Bullets snapped past, kicking up dust. Thomas was covering the left flank, firing controlled bursts. Cole was reloading, bleeding from a shoulder wound. The helo appeared over the ridge, black, unmarked, rotors screaming. Move! Lena shouted. They ran, carrying Isabella between them, bullets chasing every step. The helo touched down 50 yards out, side door open, pilot waving them in. Thomas laid down suppressing fire, emptying a magazine. Cole followed, limping but moving. Hannah and Lena reached the helo, loaded Isabella inside. Hannah climbed in, immediately checking vitals. Still alive, still breathing. Thomas and Cole piled in. The pilot didn't wait, lifted off while the door was still open, banking hard. Bullets sparked off the fuselage. One punched through the cabin, missing Hannah by inches. Then they were up, climbing, the compound shrinking below. Hannah pressed her hands to Isabella's chest, feeling the faint, fragile beat of her heart. Stay with me, she whispered. You didn't survive this long to die now. Isabella's eyes opened, just a crack. She tried to speak. Hannah leaned closer. What? He's not alone. Her eyes closed, and in the cockpit, the pilot turned around. It wasn't the pilot Vargas had described. It was someone else entirely, and he was smiling. Hannah's hand moved to her sidearm before conscious thought kicked in. The pilot's smile widened. I wouldn't. He tapped a control panel beside him. Dead man switch. I let go. We drop. All of us. Thomas had his rifle halfway up. The pilot shook his head slowly. Don't be stupid, old man. We're at 8,000 feet. You shoot me, nobody flies this bird. Lena's face had gone white. Who are you? Name's Vincent. I work for people who don't like loose ends. He glanced back at Isabella, still unconscious on the medical cot. And that girl right there? She's a very expensive loose end. Hannah kept her hand on the pistol grip, but didn't draw. Her eyes scanned the cockpit, dual controls, emergency override, autopilot indicator dark. Vincent was right. He was the only one flying. Eduardo sent you, Lena said. Eduardo's in zip ties back at the compound. No, this comes from higher up. The people who actually run things while Eduardo plays kingpin. Vincent adjusted their heading slightly, angling northeast. See, Isabella knows too much. Bank accounts, shell companies, names of politicians, judges, cops on the payroll. She's a roadmap to the whole organization, and you people just handed her to us. Cole was bleeding worse now, his hand pressed to his shoulder. Where are we going? Someplace quiet, someplace nobody's going to find you when this is done. Hannah's mind raced through scenarios.
Rush the cockpit. He drops them. Shoot him. Same result. Try to take control while maintaining altitude. Needed 2 pilots minimum, and none of them had rotary training. They were trapped at 8,000 feet with a man who held all the cards. Thomas caught Hannah's eye. He made a small gesture, 2 fingers pointing down, then a fist. Wait. Find the opening. Hannah gave a barely perceptible nod. How much are they paying you? Lena asked. Vincent laughed. More than the FBI ever did. Lena went very still. You were bureau. 15 years, Phoenix field office, worked organized crime. He glanced back. Actually ran point on the Vargas investigation for 3 years. Got real familiar with the family structure. Eduardo's operation, his daughter Maria, his other daughter Lena, who went FBI to redeem the family name. Real touching story. Hannah looked at Lena. The pieces were falling into place. You didn't tell me he was your father. Would it have changed anything? It would have explained why you're willing to die for this. I'm not dying for anything. I'm fixing what he broke. Vincent shook his head. You're making it worse. Maria testifies. Eduardo goes to prison, sure, but the organization doesn't die. It evolves. New leadership, cleaner operations. And Isabella, she was supposed to be the bridge. The educated daughter who legitimizes everything. He tapped the control panel again. Now she's a liability, and liabilities get eliminated. Isabella stirred, eyes fluttering. Hannah leaned over her, checked the chest tube. Still draining, breathing easier but far from stable. She needs a hospital, Hannah said. Real equipment, surgery. She needs a bullet, Vincent said. But the people paying me want it to look like an accident. Hilo goes down in the desert, everyone dies, investigation goes nowhere. Clean. Cole shifted his weight, grimacing. You crash this bird, you die too. I'm wearing the only parachute. Hannah glanced around the cabin. He wasn't lying. 1 chute strapped to his back. The desert scrolled past below, empty and endless. No roads, no towns, just sand and rock and heat. Lena's voice was ice. My sister trusted you. Maria gave you everything, names, dates, transactions, and you sold her out. I protected her, got her into witness protection, made sure Eduardo's men couldn't touch her. Vincent's voice hardened. But then she decided to grow a conscience. Started talking about testifying, about bringing down the whole network. That's when the orders came down. What orders? Eliminate Maria, recover Isabella, make the problem go away. Hannah's blood ran cold. Maria's in a safe house. 3 agents watching her. Vincent smiled. Not anymore. Lena lunged forward, but Thomas grabbed her, held her back. Don't. That's what he wants. Lena was shaking, rage and grief fighting for control. If you touched her, I didn't, but the team I sent did. About 20 minutes ago. Vincent checked his watch. Should be done by now. Hannah saw Lena break, saw the exact moment hope died, and something colder took its place. You're lying, Lena said quietly. Am I? Check your phone, see if she answers. Lena pulled out her phone. No signal. They were too high, too remote. Vincent laughed. Guess you'll just have to trust me. The helicopter banked east, descending slightly. Below, the desert gave way to mountains, jagged, barren, perfect for hiding wreckage. Hannah looked at Thomas. He was already assessing angles, distances, possibilities, combat math, the kind that kept you alive when everything else said you were dead. He caught her eye, mouthed 2 words. Trust me. Then he stood, hands raised. Vincent, let's talk deal. Vincent's eyes flicked to the mirror. I'm listening. You want Isabella dead. We get that. But you don't need all of us. Let Hannah take the girl. She's a nurse, just trying to save a life. No threat to anyone. Everyone's a threat. She's nobody. No badge, no agenda. She just got pulled into this mess. Thomas stepped closer to the cockpit. Let her walk. Kill the rest of us if you have to. But she doesn't deserve this. Hannah started to protest, but Thomas shot her a look that said, shut up and play along. Vincent considered. Why do you care? She's my daughter. Silence. Just the rotors and the wind. Vincent's expression shifted, something almost like respect. That's why you came. Not for the mission, for her. I've done a lot of things I regret.
Let me do one thing right. Hannah's throat tightened. This wasn't part of any plan. This was her father offering himself up. No, she said. Dad, no. Thomas ignored her, focused on Vincent. So what do you say? One life, one witness who'll disappear and never talk. Seems like a fair trade. Vincent thought about it. Then he shook his head. Nice try. But I've got orders. Everyone dies. No exceptions. Thomas smiled, grim, knowing. Then you've got a problem. How's that? Because I just got close enough. He grabbed the pilot's headrest and yanked hard, slamming Vincent's head forward into the control panel. The helicopter lurched. Alarms screamed. Vincent recovered fast, elbowing Thomas in the ribs, reaching for his sidearm. Thomas grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun went off, loud, deafening. The bullet punched through the canopy, and wind roared into the cabin. The helo spun, dropping altitude fast. Hannah grabbed Isabella's cot, strapped it down. Cole lunged forward, trying to help Thomas. Lena was shouting something, but the wind tore her words away. Thomas and Vincent grappled in the cockpit, hands fighting for control. The cyclic stick jerked wildly. They were in a death spiral, altitude bleeding off, 2,000 feet, 1,500, the ground rushing up. Hannah made a decision. She pulled her pistol, aimed at the canopy above Vincent's seat, and fired 3 times. The glass shattered outward. Wind became a hurricane. Vincent's parachute deployed, not because he pulled the cord, but because the emergency release triggered. The chute blossomed, caught wind, and yanked him straight up and out of the cockpit. Thomas grabbed the controls, pulled hard. The helicopter shuddered, rotors screaming, and for one terrible second Hannah thought they were finished. Then Thomas leveled out, 50 feet off the deck, skimming over rock and cactus. "Anyone know how to fly this thing?" he shouted. "You're doing it," Cole yelled back. "I'm crashing slower. There's a difference." Hannah scrambled forward, looking at the controls. She'd done helicopter medical training in the Army, enough to know the basics, not enough to actually fly. Collective controls altitude, cyclic controls direction, pedals control rotation. "I know what they do. I don't know how to land." Ahead, the terrain flattened slightly. A dry lake bed, cracked earth, no obstructions. "There," Hannah pointed. "Put it down there." Thomas aimed for the lake bed, descending fast. Too fast. The skids hit hard, bounced, hit again. Metal shrieked. The tail rotor clipped a rock, and the whole bird spun like a top. Hannah held on to Isabella's cot, keeping it from tearing loose. Cole braced against the bulkhead. Lena was thrown against the wall, hard. The helicopter slid sideways, kicking up a dust storm, and finally stopped. Silence. Just the tick of cooling metal and the ringing in Hannah's ears. "Everyone alive?" Thomas asked. Groans answered him. Hannah checked Isabella first, still breathing. The chest tube had held, vitals weak but steady. Cole was bleeding worse, his face gray. "Shoulders bad. Think the bone's cracked." Lena pulled herself up, wiping blood from a split lip. "Where are we?" Hannah looked out the shattered canopy at miles of nothing. "Middle of nowhere." "We need to move," Thomas said. Vincent had a radio. He called this in. "They'll send people." "Isabella can't walk." "Then we carry her." They unloaded everything useful, medical supplies, water, weapons, ammunition. Thomas rigged a makeshift stretcher from the cot frame and cargo straps. They lifted Isabella onto it, and Hannah did a quick check. The chest tube was holding, but the infection was spreading. She needed IV antibiotics, surgery, a real hospital. She had maybe 12 hours. Probably less. "Which way?" Cole asked. Thomas pulled out a compass, checked their position against the sun. "North, 20 miles. We hit a highway. Maybe flag down help." 20 miles carrying a stretcher in the desert? Lena looked at him like he was insane. "You got a better idea?" Nobody did. They started walking. The desert was a furnace. Heat shimmered off the cracked earth, turning distance into liquid. They moved in shifts, Thomas and Cole carrying the stretcher, then Thomas and Hannah, then Hannah and Lena. Every hour they stopped, and Hannah checked Isabella's vitals, adjusted the IV, prayed the antibiotics were doing something. After 4 hours, they'd covered maybe 6 miles. Cole collapsed during his shift, his wounded shoulder finally giving out. Hannah checked him. Blood loss, dehydration, early shock. She gave him water, wrapped the wound tighter, shot him full of painkillers from her kit. I can keep going, he said through gritted teeth. You'll pass out in another mile. Then I pass out. We don't have a choice. He was right. They didn't. They kept moving. The sun was sinking when they found the road, 2 lanes of cracked asphalt cutting through the desert like a scar. No cars, no signs, just empty highway stretching east and west. Thomas set down the stretcher, breathing hard. We wait here. Flag down the first vehicle that comes. And if it's cartel, Lena asked, then we shoot first and apologize later. They took positions on either side of the road, using scrub brush for cover. Hannah stayed with Isabella, monitoring her breathing. The infection was winning. Her skin was hot to the touch, her pulse rapid and weak. How long? Lena asked quietly. 6 hours, maybe less. Will she make it? Hannah didn't answer. Couldn't. 20 minutes passed. Then an hour. The sun touched the horizon, painting the desert red and gold. Then headlights appeared, distant but approaching fast. Thomas raised his rifle. Everyone ready. The vehicle resolved into a pickup truck, old, dented civilian plates. It slowed as it approached, the driver leaning out to look at them. Thomas stepped into the road, rifle lowered but ready. We need help. Medical emergency. The driver was a woman, 50s, weathered skin, suspicious eyes. What happened? Helicopter crash, we've got wounded. The woman looked at Isabella on the stretcher, at Cole holding his shoulder, at the blood and the weapons and the desperation. You people running from something? We're running to something, Hannah said. A hospital, please. The woman stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Get in the bed. I'll take you to Gila Bend. They've got a clinic. They loaded Isabella into the truck bed as gently as possible. Hannah climbed in beside her, keeping the IV steady. Thomas, Lena, and Cole squeezed in around them. The woman drove fast, the truck rattling over potholes and rough patches. Every bump sent pain through Isabella's body, but she didn't wake. Couldn't. Hannah held her hand, felt the fever burning through her. Stay with me. We're almost there. But Gila Bend appeared out of the desert like a mirage. A small town, maybe 2,000 people, gas stations and diners, and a single-story medical clinic with a flickering neon cross. The woman pulled up to the emergency entrance and honked twice. A doctor appeared, young, tired, wearing scrubs that had seen better days. What have we got? He asked. Gunshot wound, pneumothorax, sepsis, Hannah said, already moving. Chest tube placed, IV antibiotics started. She needs surgery. Now. The doctor took one look at Isabella and started shouting orders. Nurses appeared with a gurney. They transferred Isabella inside, Hannah following, giving report as they moved. The clinic was small, 6 beds, basic equipment, nothing like what Isabella needed. But it was better than the desert. The doctor, his name tag said Dr. Kern, listened to Hannah's report, checked Isabella's vitals, and made a call. I'm getting her to Phoenix. Mercy General, they've got a trauma team standing by. How long? Kilo's 20 minutes out. Hannah nodded, relief and exhaustion hitting her all at once. 20 minutes. Isabella could last 20 minutes. She walked back outside. Thomas was leaning against the truck, drinking water the woman had given him. Lena was on her phone, trying to get a signal. Cole was sitting on the curb, his shoulder wrapped in fresh bandages. The woman who'd driven them looked at Hannah. She gonna make it? I don't know, but she's got a chance. That's all any of us get. The woman climbed back into her truck. You people take care. She drove off before Hannah could even thank her. Lena's phone finally connected. She dialed, waited, her face tight with fear. Maria, answer me. A pause. Then her whole body sagged with relief. You're okay. She stopped, listening. Her expression changed. What do you mean they tried? Who stopped them? She looked at Hannah. Morrison. He got there in time. Took out Vincent's team before they breached the safe house. Hannah closed her eyes. Let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Is she secure? Lena asked into the phone. Then, good. Don't move her until I get there. She hung up, looked at the group. Maria's alive. Morrison's with her. He wants to know where we are. Tell him Gila Bend, Thomas said, and tell him to bring federal backup, real backup, not anyone from Phoenix. Lena made the call. The medical helicopter arrived 18 minutes later, a proper medevac, full trauma team. They loaded Isabella, and Hannah gave report to the flight medic detailing everything she'd done. "You saved her life," the medic said, "twice from the sound of it." "Just doing my job." The helo lifted off, banking toward Phoenix, and Hannah watched it disappear into the darkening sky. Dr. Kern came outside, wiping his hands on a towel. "Your friend's in good hands. Best trauma team in the state." He looked at Cole. "You're next. That shoulder needs imaging and probably surgery." Cole shook his head. "I'm fine. You're bleeding through the bandage. Get inside before you pass out." Cole looked at Thomas, who nodded. "Go. We'll be here." The doctor led Cole inside, leaving the three of them alone in the parking lot. Lena sat down on the curb, head in her hands. "We almost died. All of us." "But we didn't," Thomas said. "Vincent's still out there. So is Eduardo. So are the people giving orders. For now." Hannah sat down beside Lena. "Maria's testimony will help, and if Isabella talks—" "She won't." Lena's voice was flat. "She's terrified. Eduardo's her father. She grew up in that world. Even if she survives, she'll never testify." "Then we find another way." "There is no other way. We lost." Hannah grabbed her arm, forced Lena to look at her. "Listen to me. I've been shot at, stabbed, blown up, and left for dead more times than I can count. And every single time, someone told me it was over, that I'd lost. You know what I learned? It's not over until you stop fighting." Lena stared at her, eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. "I don't know how to keep fighting." "Yeah, you do. You've been fighting your whole life, against your father, against the system, against people who said you couldn't change anything." Hannah squeezed her arm. "You saved your sister. You got Isabella out. You're still standing. That's not losing. That's surviving." Lena's shoulders shook. She pressed her hands to her face, and for a moment she just broke, quietly, completely. Thomas put a hand on her shoulder, said nothing, just stood there. After a long moment, Lena pulled herself together, wiped her eyes, stood up. "I need to see Maria," she said. "Morrison will bring her here," Hannah said. "No, I need to go to her, make sure she's really okay." "You're in no condition." "I don't care." Lena's voice was steel. "She's my sister. I'm going." Thomas nodded. "I'll drive you." They requisitioned a clinic vehicle, a van with Gila Bend Medical stenciled on the side, and left 30 minutes later. Hannah watched them go, then walked back inside. The clinic was quiet now. Cole was in imaging. Dr. Kern was typing notes at a computer. A nurse was restocking supplies. Normal. Ordinary. The kind of quiet Hannah had tried to build her life around. It felt wrong now, like a coat that didn't fit anymore. She found a chair in the waiting room and sat down. Her body ached. Her hands were still shaking from adrenaline. She smelled like blood and desert dust and fear. Her phone buzzed. A text from Morrison. "Heard what you did. Isabella's in surgery. Prognosis good. Maria's safe. Eduardo's in federal custody. You did it, Blake." Hannah stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed a response. "It's not finished." Morrison's reply came fast. "What do you mean?" "Vincent. The people above Eduardo, they're still out there. We'll handle it." "How? You don't even know who they are." A pause. Then, "Do you?" Hannah thought about Vincent's words. The organization, the network, politicians, judges, cops on the payroll, names Isabella knew, names she might never say out loud. Hannah typed, "Not yet, but I will." She sent the message and stood up. Dr. Kern looked over from his computer. "You should rest," he said. "You've been through hell." "I'm fine. You're running on fumes and stubbornness. I've seen it before." He gestured to an empty exam room. "At least let me check you out. Make sure nothing's broken." Hannah almost refused. Then she caught sight of herself in the reflection of the window, disheveled, bruised, exhausted. She looked like someone who'd been fighting for days, because she had. "Okay," she said. 5 minutes." Dr. Kern did a quick exam, checked her ribs, her pupils, her reflexes. "You've got some bruising, probably mild dehydration, but structurally, you're sound." He handed her a bottle of water. "You're lucky." "I'm good at my job." He smiled. "I can see that. Where'd you train? Army? Combat medic?" "Thought so. You've got that look." "What look?" The one that says you've seen the worst things people can do to each other, and you chose to save them anyway.
Hannah took a long drink of water. Someone had to. Dr. Kern's pager beeped. He checked it, stood.
I need to check on your friend.
You're welcome to stay as long as you need. He left. Hannah sat alone in the exam room, listening to the quiet hum of medical equipment, the distant murmur of voices. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hannah Blake? A woman's voice. Calm, professional. Who is this?
My name is Rebecca Stone. I believe your father mentioned me.
Hannah's blood went cold. How did you get this number?
I have access to a lot of things, Ms. Blake, including your file, your service record, your medical history, and your current location.
Hannah stood, walked to the window, scanned the parking lot, empty except for 2 cars and the clinic van.
What do you want?
To offer you a job. Again. This time with full disclosure.
I'm not interested.
You flew into a cartel compound, performed field surgery under fire, survived a sabotaged helicopter, and walked 20 miles through the desert carrying a critically wounded woman. You're exactly what we need.
For what?
Stone paused. There's a network. Bigger than Eduardo Vargas, bigger than any single cartel. It crosses borders, agencies, governments. It's been operating for decades, and it's gotten very good at staying invisible. And you want me to what? Hunt them down?
No. I want you to do what you do best.
Save the people they hurt. Protect the witnesses they try to kill. Be the person standing between innocent lives and the people who want them dead. Hannah's jaw tightened. I already tried that. It didn't work out. Because you were alone. This time you wouldn't be. I'm not a soldier anymore. No, you're something better. You're a soldier who chose mercy over violence. That's rare and valuable. Hannah looked at her reflection in the window. Tired eyes, split knuckles. Someone who'd walked through fire and somehow come out the other side.
I need to think about it, she said. Take all the time you need.
But Ms. Blake? Vincent survived that jump. He's in the wind, and the people he works for know your name now. Whether you work for me or not, they're coming for you. The line went dead. Hannah stood there, phone in hand, watching the sun finish setting. Darkness rolled across the desert like a tide. Somewhere out there, Vincent was alive. Eduardo was in custody, but the organization wasn't broken. The names Isabella knew were still hidden. The network was still running. And Hannah Blake, nurse, medic, the woman who just wanted a quiet life, was standing at the center of it all. She walked back to the waiting room. Cole was being wheeled out of imaging, his shoulder wrapped and stabilized. Dr. Kern was talking to him about surgery options. Hannah's phone buzzed. Another text. This time from a number she didn't recognize. You should have stayed in your lane, nurse. Now you're part of this. And we don't forgive. V. Vincent. Hannah read the message twice. Then she typed a response. Come find me. She hit send and put the phone away. Outside, headlights appeared on the highway. A black SUV moving fast, pulling into the clinic parking lot. Hannah's hand moved to her sidearm. The door opened. Morrison stepped out, followed by 2 agents in tactical gear. He walked into the clinic, saw Hannah, and stopped. We need to talk. About what? About the files Isabella had on her when you extracted her, the ones sewn into her jacket lining. He pulled out an evidence bag. Inside was a small USB drive wrapped in plastic. Medical team found them during surgery, encrypted, high-level stuff. Hannah's pulse kicked up. What's on them? We don't know yet.
But if Isabella was hiding them... Morrison looked at Hannah. She knew she was a target. She knew she had something worth dying for, and she made damn sure it survived, even if she didn't. Hannah looked at the USB drive. Tiny, innocuous, potentially the key to everything. Can you crack it? She asked. We're trying, but it's military-grade encryption. Could take weeks, months. Morrison paused. Unless Isabella wakes up and tells us the password. She's not waking up anytime soon.
Kern said the surgery will take hours. Morrison nodded slowly. Then his phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. Understood. He hung up, looked at Hannah. We've got a problem. What kind? The kind where Eduardo Vargas just escaped federal custody. Hannah felt ice spread through her chest. How? Transport vehicle was ambushed 10 miles outside Phoenix. 4 agents dead. Eduardo's gone. Along with 3 of his top lieutenants who were being transferred with him. Vincent. Morrison nodded grimly. Almost certainly. Cole appeared in the doorway, his arm in a sling, his face pale. So what do we do? Hannah looked at Morrison, then at Cole, then at the USB drive in the evidence bag. We finish this, she said. Morrison's phone rang again. He answered, listened for 3 seconds, then his face went white. Say that again. He closed his eyes. God damn it. He hung up, looked at Hannah. Maria's safe house. Someone just hit it. Morrison's team fought them off, but... He stopped. But what? Maria's gone. They took her. The world tilted. Hannah grabbed the edge of the counter to steady herself. Lena, she said. She was heading there with my father. Morrison was already dialing. Blake, if you're there, answer your goddamn phone. But the call went straight to voicemail. Hannah grabbed her jacket, checked her weapon. Where was the safe house? 20 miles north of here, off Route 85. How long ago was the hit? 10 minutes. Hannah was already moving toward the door. Morrison grabbed her arm. Wait. We need backup, a tactical team, but there's no time. They've got Lena. They've got my father, and if Vincent's running this, they're already dead or will be soon. You can't go alone. I'm not. She looked at Cole. You coming? Cole pushed off the wall, his face set despite the pain. Try and stop me. Morrison hesitated, then pulled his sidearm, checked it, and handed it to Hannah along with 2 spare magazines. You find them, you call it in immediately. Understood? Hannah took the gun, the weight familiar and terrible in her hand. Understood. She walked out into the night, Cole beside her, and climbed into the clinic van. The engine turned over, rough but reliable. 20 miles, 10 minutes, head start. She had to move fast. The safe house appeared through the darkness like a wound. Windows shattered, door hanging open, smoke rising from somewhere inside. 2 vehicles were parked out front. Federal plates. Bullet holes in the doors. Hannah killed the lights and coasted to a stop 100 yards out. She and Cole approached on foot, weapons raised, using the darkness for cover. The front door was open. Blood on the threshold, shell casings glinting in the moonlight. Hannah moved inside, clearing corners by instinct. The safe house was small. 3 rooms, basic furniture, tactical maps on the walls. And bodies. 2 agents down in the living room. Dead. Shot execution style. Hannah's stomach turned, but she kept moving. Checked the kitchen. Empty. Checked the bedroom. Thomas was on the floor, hands zip-tied behind his back, a gag in his mouth. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, but his eyes were alert, furious. Hannah cut him loose. He yanked out the gag, gasping. They took her, Lena and Maria both, 2 trucks, headed south. How long? 5 minutes? Maybe less. Cole appeared in the doorway. Vehicle approaching, fast. Hannah looked out the window. Headlights. Multiple vehicles moving in formation. Morrison? Thomas asked. Or reinforcements for Vincent? Hannah grabbed her father's arm, helped him up. We need to go. Now. They ran for the van, piled in. Hannah started the engine just as the first vehicle crested the hill, a black SUV, identical to the ones that had chased her in Red Mesa. She floored it, tires kicking up gravel, and shot down the dirt road going 60. The SUV followed, gaining fast. Gunfire cracked. Bullets punched through the van's rear window, and safety glass exploded inward. Cole returned fire through the shattered window, controlled bursts. One of the SUV's tires blew, and it swerved, clipped a rock, rolled. 2 more vehicles appeared behind them. This isn't random, Thomas said, breathing hard. They're hurting us. Where? Wherever Vincent wants us. Hannah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Text message, unknown number. You want them back? Come get them. GPS coordinates attached. Come alone or they die. You have 1 hour. Hannah opened the coordinates. A location 60 miles south, just over the border. Cole looked over her shoulder. It's a trap. I know.
So what do we do? Hannah looked at her father, battered but unbroken. At Cole, wounded but standing. At the desert rushing past in the darkness. Then she turned the van south and drove straight toward the trap. Because that's what Vincent wanted. And Hannah Blake was about to give him exactly what he deserved. The coordinates led them to an abandoned mining facility carved into the side of a mountain, concrete bunkers, rusted equipment, tunnels disappearing into darkness. The kind of place where people went to disappear. Hannah killed the headlights a quarter-mile out and coasted the van behind a collapsed water tower. The facility sat in a natural bowl surrounded by steep hills on 3 sides. One way in, one way out. Classic kill box. Thomas pulled out binoculars, scanned the perimeter. 4 guards visible, probably more inside. 2 trucks parked by the main building, same ones from the safe house. Cole checked his rifle, grimacing as his injured shoulder protested. So we're walking into an ambush with no backup, limited ammunition, and a ticking clock. That about covers it, Hannah said. Thomas lowered the binoculars, looked at his daughter. We don't have to do this. We call Morrison, wait for tactical. And Lena and Maria die while we're waiting. Hannah pulled on a tactical vest Morrison had given her, checked her weapons. Vincent's not bluffing. He wants me. I go in. Maybe he lets them go. Or he kills all of you. Probably. Hannah met her father's eyes. But I'm done hiding. I'm done letting other people pay for my choices. I walked away from this life once. Cost me 6 years and almost cost 18 people their lives at that clinic. I'm not making that mistake again. Thomas studied her face, seeing something there he recognized from his own mirror. The look of someone who'd made peace with the price of doing what was right. Then we do it smart, he said. Cole and I provide overwatch from the ridge. You go in, make contact, get eyes on the hostages. We wait for an opening, then we hit them from 2 sides. They'll be watching for that. Let them watch. They're expecting one exhausted nurse walking into a trap. They're not expecting what comes after. Hannah almost smiled. What comes after? Thomas's expression was pure ice. A very angry father and a ranger with a grudge. They moved into position as the moon climbed higher. Thomas and Cole took the eastern ridge, finding cover among the rocks with clear sightlines on the main building. Hannah waited in the shadows, watching the guards change positions, counting heads, measuring distances. Her phone buzzed. Text from Vincent. Time's up. Walk in slow. Hands visible. Or I start with the sister. Hannah typed back. I'm coming. Alone, like you asked. I know you're not alone, but I appreciate the effort. Tell your father and the ranger to stay put. They move, everyone dies. Hannah cursed under her breath. Vincent had eyes everywhere. Drones, maybe. Or thermal imaging. Either way, he knew the play before they'd even made it. She keyed her radio, a spare from the clinic van. He knows you're there. Thomas's voice crackled back. Doesn't change anything. You go in, we wait for the shot. There might not be one. Then we make one. Hannah took a breath, stepped out of cover, and started walking. The guard saw her immediately. 2 rifles tracked her movement. She kept her hands visible, her pace steady, her expression calm. The main building's door opened. Vincent stepped out, backlit by harsh fluorescent light. He looked different than he had in the helicopter. Composed, confident, a man back in control. Hannah Blake, he said. Right on time. Where are they? Inside. Alive for now. He gestured with his pistol. Walk slow. Stop 10 feet out. Hannah did. She could see into the building now. Concrete walls, exposed beams, and in the center 2 women zip-tied to chairs. Lena's face was bruised, her lips split. Maria looked worse, pale, shaking, her eyes wide with terror. Eduardo stood behind them, his hands bandaged from the zip ties, his expression cold and satisfied. You escaped federal custody, Hannah said. Eduardo smiled. I had help. Turns out I still have friends in useful places. Not for long. The files Isabella had will never see the light of day, because my daughter understands loyalty, unlike some people. He looked at Lena with pure contempt. You always were the weak one, trying to fix what wasn't broken, trying to save people who didn't want saving. Lena's voice was hoarse but steady. I saved Maria. I'll save Isabella too. And when this is over, you're going back to prison, permanently. Eduardo's smile widened. You think you've won? You think because you got Isabella to a hospital, because you have some encrypted files, that anything changes? He stepped closer to Lena. I've been building this organization for 30 years. It survived wars, crackdowns, regime changes. It'll survive you. Not this time, Lena said. Eduardo raised his hand to strike her. Enough! Vincent's voice cut through the tension. He looked at Hannah. You came for them. Fine. Let's make a deal. I'm listening. You walk away, right now. Forget about the Vargas family, forget about the files, forget any of this ever happened. In exchange, I let these two go. And if I say no, Vincent cocked his pistol, aimed it at Maria's head. Then I paint the walls with her brain, and you get to watch. Maria whimpered. Lena jerked against the zip ties, her wrists bleeding. Hannah's mind raced through scenarios. She could draw her weapon. Vincent would shoot Maria before she cleared leather. She could charge him. Same result. She could call for her father and Cole. They'd take out the guards, but Vincent would execute both hostages. She needed to change the equation. Okay, Hannah said. I'll walk. But first I want proof you'll let them go. Untie one of them. Let me see. Vincent considered, then nodded to one of the guards. The man cut Maria's zip ties. She collapsed forward, sobbing. Hannah stepped closer. Can you walk? Maria nodded, tears streaming. Then when I say run, you run, straight north. Don't stop. Understand? Maria's eyes widened. What? Do you understand? A tiny nod. Hannah looked at Vincent. Happy? Not even close. He aimed the pistol at Lena now. But I appreciate you playing along. Makes this easier. Makes what easier? Killing you all anyway. Did you really think I'd honor a deal after what you cost me? Vincent's smile was pure venom. Eduardo hired me to clean up his mess. That includes you. That includes his traitor daughters. That includes anyone who knows too much. Eduardo's expression shifted. Confusion, then understanding, then fear. Wait, we had an agreement. We did, and I fulfilled it. I got you out of federal custody. But my real employers? They don't want loose ends. And Eduardo, you're the loosest end of all. Vincent turned and shot Eduardo twice in the chest. The older man collapsed, blood spreading across his expensive shirt, his eyes wide with shock and betrayal. Lena screamed. Maria froze, her face a mask of horror. Vincent aimed at Lena. Hannah moved. She grabbed Maria, shoved her toward the door. Run! Maria stumbled, then bolted. Guards raised their weapons, but Hannah was already on Vincent, grabbing his gun hand, forcing it up. The shot went wild, punching through the ceiling. They grappled, crashing into equipment. Vincent was trained, strong, but Hannah had fought in Kandahar. She drove her knee into his ribs, heard something crack, and ripped the gun from his hand. She aimed, and a guard tackled her from behind. The gun skittered away. They went down hard, Hannah's head bouncing off concrete. Stars exploded across her vision. The guard raised his rifle. Gunfire erupted from the ridge. The guard's head snapped back and he dropped. Thomas and Cole had taken the shot. Chaos exploded. The remaining guards scattered, returning fire. Bullets sparked off metal, punched through walls. Hannah scrambled for cover behind a support beam, her head spinning, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. Lena was still zip-tied to the chair, exposed, defenseless. Hannah ran for her, staying low. A guard stepped into her path, rifle raised. She grabbed a piece of rebar from the floor and drove it through his knee. He screamed, dropped. She took his rifle and put 2 rounds into his chest. She reached Lena, cut her free. Can you move? Yeah. Then move. They ran for the side exit, bullets chasing them. Outside, the desert night was lit up with muzzle flashes. Thomas and Cole were laying down suppressing fire, controlled bursts, making every shot count. Hannah found cover behind a rusted excavator, pulled Lena down beside her. Where's Maria? I don't know, there, Lena pointed. Maria was 50 yards out, running toward the hills, stumbling over rocks. A guard was chasing her, closing fast. Hannah raised the rifle, exhaled, and fired. The guard went down. Maria kept running. Inside the building, Vincent was on his feet, bleeding from his ribs, but still moving. He grabbed a radio, barked orders. Engines roared to life.
The two trucks started moving, circling around to cut off escape routes. They were being boxed in. Hannah's radio crackled, Thomas's voice tight with urgency. "They're flanking us, east and west. We need to fall back."
Negative. We finish this here.
"Hannah, we don't run. Not anymore."
She looked at Lena. "You know how to shoot?" Lena took the rifle from a dead guard, checked the chamber. "My father made sure all his children could." "Good. Cover the west side. I'll take east." They separated, taking positions. The trucks were closing, headlights cutting through the darkness. Hannah counted. 4 men in each truck, all armed, all converging on their position. 8 against 3. Plus Vincent inside. Plus however many guards were left. Bad odds. Hannah had survived worse. The first truck came in fast, sliding to a stop 20 yards out. Men poured out, firing as they moved. Hannah picked her targets carefully. Lead man, then the second, then the one trying to flank. 3 shots, 3 down. The survivors scattered, taking cover. Lena was firing from the west side, controlled bursts. 2 more guards dropped. Cole's rifle cracked from the ridge. Another guard down. But they were still outnumbered, and running low on ammunition. Hannah's rifle locked back empty. She dropped it, pulled her sidearm. 7 rounds left. She had to make them count. A guard rushed her position. She waited until he was close, then fired twice. Center mass. He fell. 5 rounds. Another guard, smarter, using cover. She waited for him to expose himself, then put one in his shoulder. He spun, dropped. 4 rounds. Vincent's voice echoed from inside the building. "You can't win, Blake. We've got reinforcements coming. Federal agencies on our payroll. You're fighting a system that's bigger than you." Hannah didn't answer. She just reloaded her last magazine and kept moving. Lena appeared beside her, bleeding from a graze on her arm. "We need to go now. Not without ending this. Hannah, we can't." "Yes, we can." Hannah grabbed Lena's collar, forced her to listen. "Your father's dead. Maria's safe. Isabella has the files that'll burn this network to the ground. All we need is Vincent. We get him, we win." Lena's jaw tightened. "How?" Hannah looked at the main building, at the lights still burning inside, at the darkness beyond. "We make him come to us." She pulled a flare from her vest, emergency equipment from the clinic van, and fired it straight up. It arced into the sky, exploding in brilliant red light. Every eye turned toward it. And in that moment of distraction, Hannah ran straight for the building. Guards shouted, tried to track her, but she was already through the door, moving fast, using the interior layout she'd memorized during her first approach. Vincent was in the back room, radio in hand, coordinating the assault. He saw her, dropped the radio, reached for his gun. Hannah fired first. The bullet took him in the shoulder, spinning him around. His gun clattered away. She closed the distance, kicked the gun further, and aimed at his head. Vincent looked up at her, blood soaking through his shirt, pain twisting his features, but he was smiling. "Go ahead," he said. "Pull the trigger. Become what you ran away from." Hannah's finger tightened on the trigger. 6 years ago, she would have done it without hesitation. Eliminated the threat, completed the mission, walked away. But she wasn't that person anymore. She lowered the gun. "I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to make sure you face what you've done." Noble. Stupid, but noble. Vincent coughed, blood on his lips. "You think they'll prosecute me? You think any court will convict someone with the connections I have?" "I think Isabella's files will make sure of it. I think Maria's testimony will bear you. And I think when the world sees what you did, who you worked for, you won't have any connections left." Vincent's smile faded. Hannah grabbed him by the vest, hauled him to his feet, and dragged him outside. The firefight had stopped. The surviving guards had scattered or surrendered. Thomas and Cole were securing the perimeter. Lena was on her knees beside Eduardo's body, her face a mask of grief and rage and something like relief. Maria appeared from the darkness, escorted by Morrison and a tactical team in full gear. Federal vehicles were pouring into the facility, lights blazing, agents spreading out. Morrison walked straight to Hannah, took Vincent from her hands, and zip-tied him without a word. Then he looked at Hannah. "You called in the cavalry," she said. "You fired a flare visible from space. Wasn't hard to figure out where you were."
He glanced at the bodies, the wreckage, the blood. Hell of a mess. It's over. Not quite, but it's close. An agent approached Morrison, whispered something. Morrison's expression shifted, surprise, then satisfaction. What? Hannah asked. Isabella woke up. She's talking. Gave us the password to the files. Morrison pulled out his phone, showed her a document, names, dates, account numbers, photographs. It's everything. Politicians, judges, cartel leadership, dirty cops, 3 decades of corruption, all documented. Hannah looked at the list. Some names she recognized, most she didn't. But together, they painted a picture of a network that had operated in shadows for so long it thought it was untouchable. How long to make arrests? She asked. We've already started. Teams are hitting locations across 3 states. By morning, half these people will be in custody. Lena walked over, her face streaked with tears and dust. My father? Morrison's expression softened. I'm sorry. Lena nodded slowly. She looked at Eduardo's body, and for a long moment she just stood there. Then she said quietly, he chose this. Every step, every decision. He could have walked away. He could have been different. She turned away. But he wasn't. Maria appeared beside her sister, and they held each other, 2 women who'd survived the same nightmare through different paths. Hannah watched them, feeling something loosen in her chest. Not relief, not satisfaction, just completion. Morrison touched her shoulder. You should get checked out. You're bleeding. Hannah reached up, felt the cut above her eye, the blood drying on her face. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. I'm an excellent liar. I'm just tired of doing it. Morrison smiled. Fair enough. He started to walk away, then stopped. Colonel Stone called. She wants to talk to you. I know. You gonna take her offer? Hannah looked at the facility, at the agents securing evidence, at Lena and Maria being led to safety, at her father and Cole being treated by paramedics, at the mess she'd walked into and somehow walked out of. I don't know, she said honestly. Ask me tomorrow. Morrison nodded and walked away. Thomas approached, his eyes swollen shut, his hands bandaged. You okay? I should be asking you that. I've had worse. He looked at her, really looked, the way only a father can. You did good, kiddo. I almost got us all killed. But you didn't. You saved 2 lives, stopped a corrupt network, brought down people who thought they were above the law. He put a hand on her shoulder. That's what you do, Hannah. You save people, even when it costs you everything. Hannah's throat tightened. I'm tired, Dad. I'm tired of fighting, tired of losing, tired of pretending I can fix things that are too broken to fix. Then stop pretending. Accept that you can't fix everything. Just fix what's in front of you, one person at a time, one life at a time. He squeezed her shoulder. That's all any of us can do. Hannah looked at the stars, at the vast desert sky, at the world that kept spinning despite everything. What if it's not enough? It's always enough, because you're still here, still standing, still choosing to save lives instead of take them. Thomas smiled. That's the hardest fight there is, and you're winning. Hannah closed her eyes, let the words settle, let herself believe them. 3 weeks later, Hannah stood in a federal courtroom in Phoenix, watching as Vincent Reyes was arraigned on charges of murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and treason. The evidence was overwhelming. Isabella's files, Maria's testimony, the bodies. Vincent's lawyers argued. The judge listened. Then she set bail at $50 million and remanded him to federal custody pending trial. Vincent was led away in chains, his face empty, his empire gone. Hannah didn't feel triumphant, just tired. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, questions were shouted. Hannah pushed through them without answering, her head down, her eyes forward. A hand grabbed her arm. She turned. Lena Vargas, wearing a dark suit, her face composed but her eyes still haunted. Thank you, Lena said quietly. For what? For believing me, for saving my sister, for finishing what I couldn't. Hannah shook her head. You finished it. I just helped. We both know that's not true. Lena handed her a card. FBI credentials, Special Agent Lena Vargas, Organized Crime Division. If you ever need anything at all. Hannah took the card. How's Maria? Witness protection. New name, new life, she's safe. Lena's voice cracked slightly. Because of you. And Isabella? Recovering slowly. The infection nearly killed her, but she's stubborn. Lena almost smiled. Runs in the family. Hannah nodded. Take care of yourself, Agent Vargas. You too, Ms. Blake. They parted ways, two women who'd walked through fire and somehow come out alive. Hannah drove back to Red Mesa, to the apartment above the pawn shop, to the life she'd tried to build from the wreckage of who she used to be. But when she opened the door, she knew she couldn't stay. The apartment felt wrong now, too small, too quiet, too much like hiding. She packed her bags, what little she owned, and left the keys on the counter. Then she drove north. She ended up at a diner just outside Flagstaff, the kind of place with vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like batteries. She ordered eggs and toast, sat in a corner booth, and pulled out her phone. 2 missed calls. One from Morrison, one from Colonel Stone. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she dialed. Stone picked up on the first ring. Blake? I'm in. A pause. What changed your mind? Hannah looked out the window at the highway, at the cars passing by, at people living their lives oblivious to the wars fought in shadows on their behalf. I'm tired of running, she said, and I'm tired of watching other people die for fights that should have been mine. This won't be easy. Nothing worth doing is. You'll be operating in gray areas, classified missions, no recognition, no medals, just the work. That's all I ever wanted, just the work. Stone was quiet for a moment. Then, welcome to the team, Blake. Report to Fort Bragg Monday morning. 0600. Don't be late. Yes, ma'am. Hannah hung up and sat there in the diner, feeling something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Purpose. The waitress came by, refilled her coffee. You look like you just made a big decision. Hannah smiled, real, genuine. Yeah, I think I did. Good decision or bad decision? Honestly, I have no idea, but it's mine, and that's enough. The waitress nodded and walked away, and Hannah sat there drinking terrible coffee and eating mediocre eggs, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she felt like herself. Not the soldier she'd been, not the nurse she'd tried to become, just Hannah Blake. The woman who walked toward danger instead of away from it. The woman who saved lives because she couldn't live with herself if she didn't. The woman who'd been invisible, overlooked, underestimated, and used every bit of it to bring down people who thought they were untouchable. She finished her breakfast, left a 20 on the table, and walked back to her car. The highway stretched north toward a new mission, a new team, a new chapter. She didn't know what was waiting for her, but for the first time in years, she was ready to find out. 6 months later, a news story broke. Federal prosecutors announced the largest organized crime takedown in U.S. history, 87 arrests across 5 states. Billions in assets seized. A network that had operated for 3 decades, dismantled in a single coordinated strike. The story mentioned Eduardo Vargas's death, Vincent Reyes's arrest, Isabella Vargas's testimony. It didn't mention Hannah Blake, but in a small clinic in Red Mesa, a plaque was mounted on the wall. It read, "In memory of the 18 lives saved on the night of September 14th, to the courage of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and to the quiet heroes who never ask for recognition, you are seen." Mia Torres stood in front of it, her nursing credentials finally complete, her first shift about to start. She touched the plaque gently, thinking about the woman who taught her that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and doing the job anyway. Somewhere in North Carolina, Hannah Blake stepped off a helicopter onto a military base, carrying medical gear and moving with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. A young soldier approached, nervous. "Ma'am, they said you're the new combat medic?" Hannah smiled. "That's right. They also said they said you're kind of a legend. They say a lot of things. Most of it's exaggerated. Is it true you took down a cartel single-handed?" Hannah adjusted her pack, looked at the soldier. "I didn't do it single-handed. I had help. Good people who risked everything because it was the right thing to do." She started walking toward the barracks. "That's the only thing worth remembering. Not what I did, but that when it mattered, people chose to stand up. That's what makes the difference."
The soldier followed her, still awed, still curious.
And Hannah Blake walked into her new life, carrying the lessons of the old one, ready to save the next life that needed saving. Because that's what she did. Not for glory, not for recognition, not for medals or promotions or headlines. She did it because she couldn't live with herself if she didn't. And in a world full of people looking the other way, that made her the most dangerous kind of hero. The kind nobody saw coming, the kind who never stopped, the kind who saved lives in the shadows and walked away before anyone could say thank you. Hannah Blake. Combat medic. Federal contractor. The quiet guardian nobody remembered and everyone underestimated until the moment they needed her most. And then she was exactly where she'd always been, right in the middle of the fight, saving the people who couldn't save themselves. One life at a time. The end.